Shalom from Israel, I'm Ariel Ben Abraham. This week we are going to reflect on chapter 5 of the book of Psalms by King David. As we were saying last week, usually every chapter, not all the time, starts with a kind of introduction referring to that specific particular chapter as a song or as a poem in order to be recited or to played, accompanied with a musical instrument or with musical instruments. In this case, for this particular chapter, the introduction is for the leader on the musical instrument called Neilot, as we also mentioned last week. We really don't know the exact manufacture of these instruments. We have an idea, would be violins, would be guitars, would be harps, but we don't know specifically how they were. Anyway, let's start the first of these verses. Say, "Give ear to my words, O Lord, consider my meditation." We have to emphasize, we're asking King David is asking God to hear his words. We have mentioned here in our YouTube channel, in our blog, God's Love, that hearing is related to understanding and seeing is related to knowing. So in this case, David is asking God, this is in Judaism, okay, we have to make the clarification. So in this case, David is asking God, understand my words. Now, God understands everything. Obviously, we are His creatures, His creation. Of course, He understands. But David is going, obviously, a little further. He's asking God, of course you understand me, but I want you to put yourself in my place. It's like, no matter how much we want God, especially in Judaism, it's inconceivable, it's too big, and occupies everything. It's impossible that God is going to become human. It's impossible. So yeah, He's God, He can do everything. Yeah, but that's not Judaism. That is Christianity or other religions in which they say that God can become anything He wants. Doesn't work. In Judaism, we don't see it that way. God is separated in some way by His creation. He sustains His creation, but He's not His creation. God is God, His creation is His creation. They're two separate things. So some Oriental beliefs, they say, oh, the creation and God are one, they all belong to the same. It's a way to see it. We respect that. But in Judaism, when we say Kadosh, 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 sacred, 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 we're talking about that God is on His own. And yes, there is a connection. Of course, we're connected to God. We cannot live without being connected to God. Nothing in His creation cannot exist without Him. But that doesn't make creation part of it. It's His creation. That's what it's called, creation. He created it. Well, you may say, well, in some Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah, they say that everything is God. They say, well, we're not going to argue about this. But in traditional Orthodox, in Judaism, the Talmud doesn't say that. It says clearly, God is the place of the world, meaning the universe, meaning creation. But creation, the world, is not the place of God. It's not. It's quite evident, by the way. So our place is God. We come from Him. We are not God's place. So we have to be humble enough to recognize that and not try to put God in a box and say, oh, this is Him, I got Him. He's part of me, I'm part of Him. No. It's a manipulative conception that in Judaism is not accepted. So yeah, your choice. You believe what you want to believe. So David is basically asking God, God, put yourself in my shoes. It's not necessarily I want you to be human and understand me. No. It's like, bear with me, my suffering. Why? Because we know that God is not human. So it's like, based on that, David said, you're not human, you're God. But precisely because you're not human, hear me, understand me. This is an out of humbleness statement, not out of arrogance. Like say, understand me, I'm human, you created me, pay attention to me. No. It's like, hear my words. Know me, understand me. What I'm going through. I'm not in heaven, I'm not in your spheres, God. I'm here in this material world, dealing with a material reality, dealing with good and evil, dealing with false and truth, correct, incorrect, false, true. Hear my words. Oh Lord, consider my meditation. It's like, in this case, meditation is not necessarily, it's not talking about prayer. It's like, hear my prayer. It's like everything that I'm meditating about, what I'm having now in my consciousness and at the moment, what I'm dealing with at the moment, here. Consider it, like give credit to the struggle that I'm having in my consciousness, having to deal with good and evil, false and truth, etc. This is a good approach to approach God. It's like, God, you created me. But I'm in this trap in this material world, this dualism of good and evil. It's like, hear me. I'm nothing, but hey, I'm approaching you. You're my God, you're my creator, you're my king. Verse 3. Listen to the voice of my cry, my King and my God, for I pray to you, for unto you I do pray. So it's like, listening in this case is like, get closer, not just hear, listen. Like, be more attending to what I'm saying, to what I'm saying to you, to what I'm going through. The voice of my cry, David is crying to God. Like, this is not just a regular request. I want you really to know where I am going through. From this place I'm calling you. I want you to listen to me. I don't want you to be far from me. I want you to be so close to me that you consider my meditation, hear my cry. Give ear to my words. You are my king, you're my God, you're my creator, you're my ruler. King in this case is ruling. I'm following your rule. I'm emulating your ways and attributes. That's why they call him king. I'm my God, my creator. For I pray you. I pray unto you. To you, I'm the one to whom I approach. I don't come to anybody. I'm coming to you. I don't want anybody's sympathy, anybody's listening to me. I'm asking you to listen to me, God, my King, my God. It's a powerful approach to God. Violent, courageous. Like you are the one who can save me from this. No one else can. 4. O Lord, in the morning shall you hear my voice. In the morning will I order my prayer unto you, and I will look forward. So, let's take one sentence one by one. O Lord, in the morning shall you hear my voice. What is the morning? The morning, usually the moment when we wake up. The first thing that we say is, God, hear me. The moment we wake up. to thank Him that He gave us our souls back to us after the sleep. So we approach Him in the morning. So we listen to me in the morning. It's like my first cry to you, my first address to you, my first addressing of the day is to you. So listen to me in the morning. Hear my voice in the morning, O Lord. In the morning will I order my prayer to you. I start my prayers exactly after I woke up. For me, you are everything. And we look forward. It's like you are setting me up to keep going since the moment I open my eyes. Yeah. It's an acknowledgement of God's preeminence over us. He's our creator. He's our ruler. He's our king. He's our father. Everything we have, everything, as we said last week, everything we have, everything we are, everything we do comes from Him. So we have to address Him constantly. Constantly. 5. For you are not a God that has pleasure in wickedness. Evil shall not sojourn, or does not sojourn with you. It's interesting because David is approaching God as the ethical God of Judaism. So you are the provider of goodness. You're good. So wickedness is not associated with you. It doesn't dwell with you. So I'm looking for your goodness because I know that anything bad is not coming from you. It's not. So this is the first appeal of David HaMelech being specific about what he wants from God. So I want your goodness. Because you don't dwell with the wicked. Evil does not sojourn with you. So he's appealing to God's most defining quality in Judaism, goodness. He doesn't have pleasure in wickedness. He doesn't delight himself in wickedness. He doesn't like weakness. Wickedness. So he's like, you don't like wickedness, then get me out of wickedness. Get me out of evil. I'm with you and pursue you. You're good. Take me away from negative traits, trends in my consciousness, and make me dwell with you, sojourn with you, stand with you. 6. The boasters, the pride, shall not stand in your sight. You hate all workers of iniquity. It's very important. Again, David is approaching God as the ethical God of Judaism. It's the only way he does, by the way. He pursues God's goodness out of an ethical approach about goodness. So the pride shall not stand in your sight. What's the problem with we have mentioned several times in our blog and in these videos, like this thing that is tractate in the Talmud called Sotah somewhere. He said that God cannot dwell with the haughty, with the pride, with the arrogant. So why? Because the arrogant is full of himself. So it's like, it's not that God doesn't like the arrogant. It's like, I don't like these guys. He created the arrogant. He's not going to like them. He created us. In our goodness and in our badness, in our wickedness. We are His creation. Well, I mean, he's not what we do out of his creation. I mean, that's what we have free will. So he doesn't associate with the negative things we do. Of course not. Because he created us to do evil, to do good and to be good. And to manifest good and to create good. So he doesn't associate with negative things. This is not necessarily, he doesn't like it, he despises the arrogant. It's not that. The issue is that the arrogant is so full of himself that he doesn't have a space for God to dwell with him. It's like, let's see this bench. The bench there's enough space in the bench for 2 people. Or more. But then we sit in the chair, we sit in the middle, open our legs, open our arms, like nobody's sitting here. So my seat, which is my life, I'm filling it, all of it, with my presence, with myself. Then God comes. Ariel, how you doing? Can I sit with you? You say, no, it's no space here. Sorry. God. That's the problem. So the problem is ours. It's not God's that he likes or doesn't like. We are the ones who create the conditions for us to dwell with God or not, and to allow God to dwell with us. What is that common place that we have been talking since the beginning of these commentaries and the beginning of the blog and the beginning of the videos? It's goodness. That's the place that we share with God. So we have to empty the vessels of everything arrogant, everything negative, everything selfish, everything futile, everything full of vanity, egos, fantasies, and illusions. Clear everything, negative trends and traits in consciousness, in order to fill the space with God. The goodness. That's our common bond with Him. That's the idea. So the arrogant shall not stand in your sight. Do not stand in your sight. And you hate all workers of evil. It's like when this is hating, it's not a hate. It's like he doesn't associate himself. He doesn't approve wickedness. God didn't create us to do evil. He created evil in order for us to make a choice, the choice of goodness. So evil is a reference. Darkness is a reference in order to choose light, to pursue light. So they have a reason to be there, not as an end, but as a reference. We have to insist and to repeat this. So when he said that God hates the wicked, he doesn't associate with him. Wickedness is not what you were created for. You were created for goodness. Why? Because God is good. Therefore, he doesn't associate with wickedness, with evil. 7. You destroy them, those who speak falsehood. You destroy the speakers of falsehood. The Lord abhors the man of blood and of deceit. This is another statement defining the ethical principle of divinity of God in Judaism. He doesn't really, he hates, God hates, doesn't like him. He doesn't associate himself with wickedness, doesn't sit with the evil, with the haughty, with the arrogant, with the one full of himself. And he destroyed those who speaks false. By destruction is again the separation. We're destroyed when we are separate. We are not in completeness anymore. We're fractured. That's what destruction is, by the way. That house is destroyed. It was turned into pieces. It had to be back the way it was before. We had to rebuild it again. So we have to understand it in that way. So the destruction of the falsehood. Falsehood doesn't exist, it's destroyed already. Since the moment that falsehood is there, it doesn't exist. Why? Because it's false. It's not real. It doesn't transcend because it doesn't have the goodness that it should have. Goodness is what transcends in consciousness. In the consciousness that God gave us. He dislikes, abhors the man of blood and deceit. Blood is violence. Deceit is deceit. The opposite of truth, deceit. The man of violence. We're not here to do violence, we're here to love each other. Therefore, God dislikes the man of blood. Because it's an ethical statement that are fundamental in Judaism. By fundamental, we're talking about the axis, the base, the foundation of life. We have to build life in goodness, not in violence, not in wickedness, not in falsehood, not in deceit. We have to build on truth, loving kindness, righteousness, justice, goodness. 8. But as for me, in the abundance of your loving kindness, will I come into your house. I will bow down towards your holy temple in reverence of you, in awe of you. Again, but as for me, says David, in the abundance of your loving kindness, I will come into your house. So we're talking about goodness, loving kindness. See that the difference between goodness and loving kindness, or kindness and goodness and loving kindness, is that loving kindness is undeserved, is kindness that is given for the undeserved. So in other words, when we receive goodness, even if we are not worthy of it, we are bad, for instance, and we are for goodness, and we receive goodness, that's loving kindness. So kindness is received, goodness is received by good people. But loving kindness is the one that is unconditional. That's why we always talk about the hesed of God, the loving kindness of God. Because that is unconditional. You say, yeah, but even that's an opposite statement to ethics. We're saying that the goodness, everything is about goodness. How come the loving kindness? We have to understand it in the proper way. We're sinners. We repent. We recognize that we have problems. We recognize that we're not perfect. We ask God's loving kindness. It's like, in spite that we're not good all the time, we want you to help us. And God, out of His abundant loving kindness, He gave us to us. But not necessarily that we're doing evil, we're going to be rewarded because God is unconditional, He will. No. I want to make these things clear. So David is asking God, so in your loving kindness, like, I'm not perfect, says David. I'm not perfect, we're not perfect. But we approach your loving kindness. It's like, because we're not good enough, we can ask for your kindness. We ask for your loving kindness. Because that's what we need now. We're sinners. But again, we approach God in our repentance, in our knowledge, acknowledging that we want goodness. So He wants us to be good. We want Him to make us good, to give us goodness, to stay good, as we were saying in the previous chapter. So that's the idea. So the difference between Judaism and other religions are one major difference. It's about this loving kindness issue, this unconditional love of God. It's like Loved even the wicked. No, we say that David is not saying that. He hates the wicked. But later he will say at some point, but if the person repents and changes his mood, his attitude, his approach, his vision, his conception, God will listen and he will give him loving kindness too. That's what we have to understand it. And after we fix what we have done wrong, by the way. So it's not like, oh, I killed these people, I did this, I stole, I'm repentant, forgive me. God says, no. Go fix what you did, pay what you stole. Compensate to those that you damaged. Then we'll see what I can give you. I will give you. So this is a loving kindness that is not necessarily unconditional, but it's based on our ability to recognize what we have done bad, fix it, and then be willing to change for good, to correct our path. So it's important to make this clear, because it probably wasn't clear at the beginning regarding this loving kindness. So David is, because of your abundance loving kindness, Rav Hesed them. Rav Hesed. I come to your house. What is your house? The Temple of Jerusalem. What is the Temple of Jerusalem? Our connection with Him. We cannot come to God's presence dirty of evil. We can't. We have to be clean to approach the house. Who will come to my place of rest, my dwelling, says God, somewhere in another psalm? That who has his clean hands, and he hasn't sinned, and he hasn't swear false in vain on my name. It's conditional. That's why God doesn't dwell with us. Why? Because we're filled with our own things, our own fantasies and illusions. So we have to get rid of them in order to give Him space for Him to dwell in us. That's the way it is. There's no other way. So take that into consideration. So David is telling us this here. So it's like God is allowing me in His love to be with Him. But again, I have to be as loving and kind as He is for me to dwell with Him in His house. I will bow down towards your holy temple in reverence of you, in awe of you. It's like, in your presence, in my connection with you, I put my life into your service. That's what is bowing down to God. It's like accepting His will. That's what this means, by the way. It's like I'm accepting you. And accepting your will, your commands. 9. O Lord, lead me in your righteousness because of them that lie in wait for me. It's like, I live in this material world of falsehood, wicked people, liars. Lead me in your righteousness. It's like, don't allow me to fall in their negative fantasies and illusions. Don't. So allow me to be with you. Let your righteousness lead me. Because of them that lie in wait for me. So it's like, keep myself straight. Don't bend myself. Don't let myself be bent by others. Lies, deceits, vanities, fantasies, illusions. May your way straight before my face. It's like, I want to see in my face what is the straight path that I have to walk. Just make it clear in my face, in my understanding, in my identity, who I am. May your way the way I am. So the way and myself are one. That's what He's asking God. 10. For there's no honesty in their mouth. Their inward part is a yawning gulf. The throat is an open sepulchre, an open grave. They make smooth their tongue. We're talking about egos, fantasies, and illusions, negative trends and threats in consciousness. We're talking about arrogance, we're talking about indolence, we're talking about indifference, we're talking about lust, we're talking about coveting, envy. This is the issues that David is addressing, that he sees in them, in the wicked that he has to deal every day during his kingdom. So there is no sincerity in their mouth. They speak lies. It's like, how am I going to deal with these liars? The inner part is the inner part. It's like the soul. It's a yawning gulf. It's like it can devour us, and like engulf us in the vanities, in the illusions, in the fantasy. The throat is an open grave. The throat is an open grave. It's dead. They speak dead, basically. They make smooth the tongue. It's like sharp. Not necessarily smooth. It's like talking about evil doers, evil speakers, people who talk bad, negatively. Everything is negative. Everything that approaches life is negative. They express negatively about that. Negative about that. 11. Hold them guilty. Oh God. They are guilty is responsible. Of course, we bear our guilt based on what the wrong thing that we do. So the idea is like make us aware and make them aware of the guilt. Like make them responsible. Oh God. Let them fall by their own counsels, like their own wicked understanding, conceptions, beliefs of life will make them fall down. That's what happened to us. When we pursue a false idea, we ended up falling by it. And then we realized that was a wrong thing what I was thinking. I believed this thing thinking that it was good, it wasn't. And it led me to the falsehood of it. It happens. This is cause and effect, by the way. So he's asking God, he's like, make them aware of what they're doing. So the counsel, their beliefs, their attitude, their approach, their vision, their conception, will make them aware. It's like, that's the way they act, that's the way they think. That same way of thinking will make them aware of how bad they do it, how wrong they are. So it's like, make these things fast for them. It's like, redeem them, actually. It's asking for redemption. It's not asking condemn them, destroy them, kill them, or anything like that. It's like, make them aware of your counsel of the way they think. So they will finally realize that they're wrong. That evil is not the answer. That violence is not the answer. That deceit is not the answer. That falsehood is not the answer. So it's a prayer actually not just for David to save me from them. Yeah, in some way, but at the same time, it's like do something to them so they become aware of the thinking, of the wrong thinking, of their own counsels. Cast them down in the multitude of the transgression. It's like make them aware, make them leave the wickedness they do. Put the wickedness in their own flesh so they would know and learn not to be that way. She's not asking to punish them. It's just to make them aware of what they're doing. The magnitude and the consequences of their transgressions. Cast them down in the multitude of the transgressions. Like, make them aware that everything they do, the multitude of things that they do, each one of them, make them aware of them. For they have rebelled against you. What is it? They have rebelled against goodness, against the opposite of everything wrong they do. They have rebelled against you. They don't have anything good anymore. They separated from you. That's rebellion, by the way. This is separation. 12. So shall all those that take refuge in you rejoice. So in the same way that the evil people we know eventually at one point or another, it's a matter of time, how they recognize the evil ways, make those who are in the straight path of goodness rejoice in the goodness. So shall all those that take refuge in you rejoice. They shall ever shout of joy, and you shall shelter them. The goodness, as we were saying before, is protective. Goodness protects us. This is our shelter. This is our care. This is our delight. It's a pleasure. It is our satisfaction, our fulfillment. And you shall shelter them. So let goodness shelter us, the goodness of God, which is the goodness that how we understand it as the material manifestation of God's goodness. Let them also that love your name exalt in you. What is loving God's name? What is the name of God? Name is about identity, obviously. A person called Ariel Ben Abraham, is the name identifies the person. So what is the name of God? His goodness. All the attributes. Rav Hesed is mentioned here. Abundant loving kindness and truth. Compassion. Slow for anger. Forgiving. Graceful. Good. That's God's name, by the way. Exodus chapter 36, verse 4 to 6. Those are the attributes of God. The attributes of compassion at 13. So Moshe says that, so I want to know your ways. I want to know you. I don't know, you're God, but he said, I will show you. I will tell you. And he did. I think that is chapter 34. Yeah, Exodus chapter 34, verse 4 to 6. So that's God's name. Yeah, he has a name. But that name is associated with these ways and attributes. The ways he relates to us, to his creation, and the attributes by which he fulfills his will. So let them also that love your name, also those who love your name, be happy, praise you. So recognize the goodness that you are. And be happy in it. It's something to celebrate. So it's like, make them celebrate. Make them aware of the goodness, so they would be so aware that they would be happy in their awareness. Opposite to the sadness, frustration, depression, disappointment, disillusion of living in the opposite qualities, which are wickedness, negative trends and traits in consciousness, vanities, egos, fantasies and illusions, envy, coveting, etc. They don't want to be happy when they realize that it's, gosh, I am bad. Look at this. Badness doesn't let me. I'm not happy with this. Opposite to, I'm happy with the goodness that God has bestowed on me, the identity that he has made of me, his ways and attributes of goodness. 13, and final verse of this chapter 5 of David, Psalms. For you do bless the righteous, O Lord. You do encompass him with favor as with a shield. Shield is related to protection. We wear a shield. Why? To protect ourselves. So yes, it's a shield, meaning protecting us from what? From everything opposite to goodness. Because you do bless the righteous. I mean, the goodness, bless goodness. It's very easy to understand. Oh Lord, you do encompass him, like encompass, like integrate him, like join him together with favor. Favor is for goodness, for the positive things, as with the shield, like a protection, like an armor. We are protected in love. We are protected in goodness. We are. Because goodness is a protection. So, with this we finish this reflection on chapter 5 of David. I hope that we are getting closer and closer to a greater understanding of God's ways and attributes, God's goodness in our consciousness, and start manifesting it in every facet, level, dimension, and aspect of life. In our discernment, in our thoughts, in our mind, in our feelings, in our emotions, in our passions, in our instincts, in our speech, and in our actions. So with this we finish for today, for this week. We wish you an abundantly blessed week. Shabbat Shalom. And until next week.